Religious myth is the most powerful deception ever created. Religious myth, things that are untrue. Everything you know is a fraud. Truth must be investigated. Can we do this truth? Who is telling you the truth? Is it Zeitgeist? Is it something else? Only investigation can know. Hello, I'm Larry Wessels, Director of Christian Answers, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm in studio today with our Director of Research for Christian Answers, Steve Morrison. Steve, great to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, Steve, we're going to kind of cover a little cult popular topic today. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, just probably this one show. In case we have any questions for it about this subject in our ministry, we'll have this little video to deal with it. But there's a movie out there called Zeitgeist that seems to be fairly popular on the internet. There's a lot of people talking about it. I was witnessing a few weeks ago at my place of employment. I was dealing with a couple of co-workers in an office, and it turns out one of them was big on this movie, Zeitgeist. And he says, now listen, if you want to know about religion, you need to watch Zeitgeist. And I made a deal with him. I said, okay, if I watch Zeitgeist, then you've got to watch some of our Christian Answers videos. And we shook on it, made a deal. He said, okay, I'm going to watch Zeitgeist. And then after I watch it, you're going to have to watch something that we've done. So part of the idea of this is that he's going to have to watch us talk about his movie, because that'll be one of the requirements when I go back and explain to him that I fulfilled my part of the bargain. Now it's his turn. But Zeitgeist is a movie that's out there, and it's really broken into three parts. It starts with part one, which basically covers religious myth, and basically it's a full-fledged attack on Christianity. They don't really bother with any other religions or anything. They just go right after Christianity, and they got the cannons blazing. And then the other two parts are basically about the World Trade Center and some kind of government conspiracy involved in those airplanes crashing into the World Trade Center. And you see the explosions 100 times, it seems like, in that movie. They're just showing it to you over and over again, planes hitting the building. And then they go into international politics and global economy, and they got all these conspiracy ideas about a one world government and all these sinister things happening.
Well, Larry, why is it that you think that some people are so attracted to conspiracies?
That's the funny thing about it. People want to believe the bizarre, the weird, the strange. If you come out with let's say a movie like The Da Vinci Code, and you come with all this wild stuff about Jesus, well, suddenly that's exciting, that's interesting. I'm buying it. You do a book on UFOs. Oh wow, that's neat, that's exciting and stuff. But if you try to just come up with the straight line, normal stuff like we try to do, which is just biblical doctrine, stuff we've had for 2,000 years, presented to us from the apostles and the prophets of the Bible, Jesus Christ, His gospel. Well, people, I don't want to hear that. That's too boring. I want to hear something more exciting. I want something like you'd see on some of these action adventure shows or something. And so that's why movies with conspiracies, movies about UFOs or murder or whatever it is, it's more interesting to people. So they're more excited, they're titillated by it. But you get biblical theology, they don't care about that. So Zeitgeist starts out in religion. About the first third of the movie, it's just a full-fledged attack about Christianity being, let's see if I can find the reference for it here. They say that Jesus is a copycat solar deity. They also say that Christianity is I can't quite find all my notes here, but they say that Christianity is a astro-theological hybrid. And what they're basically doing is saying that Christianity is totally predicated on astrological religious ideas coming from other religions and other pagan ideas like Egyptian religion. You've got Persian religion. You've got all these ancient mystery cults and Babylonian type religions that had their astrological zodiacs and things of that nature, and somehow there's a relation between what those religions were teaching, the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, and parallels with the life of Jesus and the Christian gospel.
Well, I find that kind of incredible because we have 10 early Christian writers that wrote about astrology and the stars, and they knew of astrology, and they actually described it in detail and said it was all wrong. And they said stars don't have any influence on people. They also wrote against the Zoroastrians, and so you have these early Christians prior to 325 AD writing against the Egyptian religion, the Zoroastrian, that is Persian religion at the time, and all this. And there's no Christians who said it was true. So they're saying something not that the church is silent about, but the early church spoke against, and they're just totally flipping what they said.
Yes, in fact, it's actually a denial of actual historical fact, biblical facts. It's a denial, basically, of everything. And you see this a lot in conspiracy ideas. People have a lot of conspiracies based on pure fabrications, twisting of facts, lack of facts, fabrications and lies. They mix it into a blender and they spit something out, and they always find somebody to believe it. And they can usually make some good money off it at the same time. Now, you were just mentioning that. Now, I've got a large occult and cultic library, other religion library at my house. In fact, the way my library is broken up, I got one half of it with all these false prophet books, as I call them, weird religions and occult items, and then on the other side is all my good Christian theology books and reference works. But I pulled this book out of the bad side of my library, which is a astrology book written by the astrologers. It's a dictionary of astrology. Now, I have lots of them, but for Zeitgeist, I wasn't going to put that much effort into this thing because it's not really worth the effort. But anyway, just pulling this book out off my shelf, just looking through it, perusing on page 49 in this book put out by astrologers, here under condemnation, on page 49, they say, the ancient prophets of biblical times condemned astrology and anathematized all Jews who practiced it. On the other hand, in later centuries, the Romans were intensely interested in predictions made by astrological calculations. Cercio, in his treatise De Venatione Divination, declared that no astrologer could forecast the future. Now, here they're actually admitting that the Bible condemns.
That part they're correct.
Right.
Yeah.
They're condemned. Here they're saying it themselves. The Bible condemns. Now, why in the world, just use your head for a minute, why in the world would these early Christians come up with this astrological zodiac concoction of a copycat ripoff of astrology if the Bible, the Old Testament prophets, as we find reading the New Testament, they condemn all that? It seems like the last thing you'd want to do is build a religion based off the Jewish religion, which condemns this whole idea. So just on the surface of it, it's a joke.
Yeah, and not only do we have to speculate that they wouldn't do that, we have their actual writings in which they actually all said that it's bogus to believe that the stars have any influence at all.
That's right. You can get that in Isaiah chapter 47. You can go to Daniel, where there's a lot of talk about astrologers there. I think particularly Daniel chapter 2, Deuteronomy chapter 18. Throughout the Old and New Testaments, this type of stuff is condemned. So the last thing you would find biblical writers doing is concocting an astrological zodiac copycat rip-off astrological theological hybrid religion on something that's totally condemned. It's asinine. Okay, but this is what the people that produce Zeitgeist are asking you to believe. And of course, once again, like we've discussed in our church history series, they are depending on you to be totally ignorant, so you'll buy into their little conspiracy theories. But see, we would not have you be ignorant, brethren. Just try to use your brains, and you can avoid a lot of con artists and rip-off ideas that are out there to take you for a ride. And this movie is doing exactly that. Not only do they try to rip you off with false ideas on Christianity, but then they tie all this nonsense into their other ideas, conspiracy ideas on the World Trade Center and global economy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really ridiculous. But when you, in case we have any questions for it about this subject in our ministry, we'll have this little video to deal with it. But there's a movie out there called Zeitgeist that seems to be fairly popular on the internet. There's a lot of people talking about it. I was witnessing a few. Religious myth is the most powerful deception ever created. Religious myth, things that are untrue. Everything you know is a fraud. Truth must be investigated. A few weeks ago at my place of employment, I was dealing with a couple of co-workers in an office, and it turns out one of them was big on this movie, Zeitgeist. And he says, now listen, if you want to know about religion, you need to watch Zeitgeist. And I made a deal with him. I said, okay, hello, I'm Larry Wessels, Director of Christian Answers, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm in studio today with our Director of Research for Christian Answers, Steve Morrison. Steve, great to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, Steve, we're going to kind of cover a little cult popular topic today. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, just probably this one show. Can we do this truth? Who is telling you the truth? Is it Zeitgeist? Is it something else? Only investigation can know.